Welcome to DS Trucks. My name's Sean. Thank you for tuning in. So I got my 2018 F-150 up on jack stands right now, and I almost lost the engine here from something really simple that happened. And I want to talk about how you just got to watch out for things and be vigilant so this doesn't happen to you. So I've noticed that there was an oil stain on the driveway the other day, and I didn't need to go anywhere, so I kind of just parked it off to the side and drove the other truck. And finally getting around to looking at it today to see if I could spot anything. So I put it up on jack stands, got the floor jack right here. But I put it up on jack stands to see if I could find anything. Go under there, took off a skid plate, poked around, looked around, and I could tell that the front differential was covered in oil, what looked like motor oil. And it wasn't leaving a huge stain on the ground. Pretty small little stain was left, maybe the size of like a dollar bill, maybe like maybe like 4 or 5 inch circle stain that was left on the ground of oil. So it wasn't a massive leak to where you'd think, well, there's not enough oil in the vehicle. But nonetheless, I just kind of refrained from driving it. And I was going to go ahead and take the truck into the dealership to see if they could find anything. But at the same time, I always like to try to look at things first before I go to the dealership, because I like to try to have some kind of an understanding of what's going on before I go in there, and just trust that they have my best interest in mind, which is not always the case, I think. But anyway, a couple days later, I finally get around to jacking up the truck to see if I could see any issues. And I look underneath, poke around, skid plates off, and I see the oil, but I can't see anything. Now, at first I was thinking, oh no, I finally got the dreaded oil pan leak that everyone talks about, the dreaded oil pan leak. And I'm thinking, well, that's going to make some cool videos of what's going on, if it's the oil pan or whatever. So I'm looking at the oil pan, and the oil pan looks good. But I noticed there's oil all over the oil filter housing. So I don't know if I could get this camera in there to see what I'm talking about. But I noticed that right around the oil filter right there's oil all over the housing here. And I'm thinking, like, man, is it going to be that simple to the fact that it's just a loose oil filter? So I went to see if the oil filter was tight, and let me show you how tight it was. So right now I've got it hand tight because I did tighten it up, but like I said, I just tightened it up, so I can definitely loosen it again by hand because it's still loose, and I just cranked it tight. So the oil filter was about this tight. See how loose that is? That's about how tight the oil filter was. So I'm thinking whoever changed the oil at the dealership where I last got oil change, they forgot to tighten this up, because it was just like this, and it just hasn't presented itself as a leak until now. It's been a couple thousand miles, so I just went ahead and cranked it tight. This is how I like to tighten my oil filters, just by hand. I like to you don't really need to use a tool to tighten these, but I like to do it just like that, pretty hard by hand. And usually when I do that, by the time it comes time to take off the oil filter again, you need to put a tool on it because it's kind of set up or seized up a little bit. But yeah, as you see in it here, there's an oil stain here on the let's see here. There's an oil stain there, and that's where it was dripping down, and the front differential is covered in oil. But like I was saying, guys, whoever put the oil filter on here, now if I would have just said, hey, there's a little bit of oil, I'm gonna keep driving the vehicle, well, that oil filter was so loose that it could have came off. Now if the oil filter came off, that could be the end of this motor. That oil filter comes off of the car, that's it. I mean, you're going to shoot, if your oil filter comes off of the car while it's running, you're going to shoot all of your oil out within a few seconds. I mean, all 6 quarts will be out of that engine in about 2 or 3 seconds. That's how much force the oil pump has without a filter on it. So it kind of brings up the question, if you're not being careful, if you're not paying attention, watching out for those oil stains, yeah, it's a brand new vehicle, but those oils, that little bit of a warning, that little bit of an oil stain was a warning. And it's weird because as loose as it was today, being a warm day, it wasn't leaking. No stains in the driveway. But it was a cold, rainy day, and it was leaking. So conditions could just be right for that oil filter to come just a little bit looser. You're driving along, and boom, you lose oil pressure. Your oil filter comes off. Now, how do I even prove that it was not my fault or it was the dealership or whatever if it happens, 4,000 miles down the road? It's kind of a weird thing. No one else has touched this truck. And being that it didn't happen right away, it could end up being on me. Like, the cost of this could end up being on me because it's something that happened so much later down the road. But just be careful. If you see something, try to correct it. Try to figure out what's going on. I know it's a new vehicle and it's not your responsibility. It's not my responsibility. But that doesn't mean you can't know what's going on. It's always good to know what's going on before you go in, even for warranty work, because there's a lot of times where these dealerships are trying to get out of warranty work. It is what it is. I don't understand all of the reasoning why, but, you have to kind of know your stuff. So I'm always trying to get into a little bit of an understanding of stuff before I just run to the shop. And, now, if I didn't have the ability to lift up the truck and put it on jack stands or anything like that, maybe you don't have a floor jack, maybe you just don't even invest in the tools because, it's not something that you need to be doing. Flies are killing me. What the heck? Maybe you haven't even invested in the tools because it's not something that you need to do. What I would recommend is going to a different dealership aside from the one where you got the service done, because that oil filter being loose like that, how do I know that they're even going to be honest? Hey, we didn't tighten the oil filter. I don't know. They might say, they may not even tell you what's wrong. They don't want that kind of issue. So I would go to a different dealership that didn't do the maintenance and have them look at it, because they got no reason to lie to you. If it's just a loose oil filter, they could say, So that's kind of something to think about. Small oil stain, just take it to a different shop and have them look at it, because there's no reason for them to lie. But maybe I'm just a little paranoid. It seems like I might just be being a little bit paranoid here. But anyway, comment below. Has anything ever happened like this to you before, where a dealership or another shop has done some things? Mechanic work is tough, man. It's tough to find a good mechanic. It is what it is. But comment below. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Thanks a lot. Bye.